Today I want to attempt to weave some sort of butterfly that looks like it's coming out of the weaving. I have no idea how we're going to do this, but let's get started. I printed out this butterfly that I found on Canva because I really liked the shape of it, so I'm going to use that as a guide. Now my thoughts here are, can I weave a butterfly, finish it, and then put it on top of a weaving? I'm not entirely sure how this is gonna work or if it's gonna look good or if it'll just be a total disaster. So let's just try it. So I'm gonna grab my flat pack frame loom and I'm going to be weaving just the butterfly. This is gonna cause some warp waste, but it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. I'm going to use these two beautiful colors from Unfettered Co. I will put a list of all the materials in the description box below. And I think for the warp, I want to use something really thin because I don't want it to become too bulky on the back side because I'm gonna have to somehow finish the back of this and I'm not totally sure how that's gonna work. So I'm gonna grab the 4/8 cotton. It's nice and thin, so it's gonna kind of disappear a little bit better than something thicker. And I think because I'm using such thick materials, I'm going to do just a single warp. So basically I just need this warp to be as big as the butterfly. So just gonna pick a spot to start on the loom and I'm gonna start warping this. I'm still a little bit nervous about if a single warp is a good idea, but we're gonna try it. Now I'm going to grab my tapestry needle and weaving comb, and I need to decide if the yellow or the pink is going on the bottom and the top. I'm not gonna weave the actual body in the center. I think I wanna try to make that something different later, but I need to decide what is going where. This is kind of small. Maybe it would have been easier if it was a little bit bigger, but I didn't want to do something super huge and then not like it. So I think I'm gonna do yellow on the bottom and pink on the top. The yellow's a little bit darker, so I feel like it might help to sort of anchor things better. Maybe not. Again, I talk like I know what I'm doing. Okay, I'm really cold though. Let's turn on the heater. So I think the first thing is I'm going to tape down my loom because it's very annoying when the loom slides around. And I'm just gonna basically slip this paper behind here and use this as a guide. I am never too concerned about making things super exact because they don't usually need to be, but I'm gonna find my center string and mark that first because what I am gonna do is try to make this symmetrical. So whatever I weave on one side, I'm gonna weave on the other. Let's grab some of this yellow yarn. I'm actually thinking what might be a smart idea, maybe. I mean, either way, I'm gonna have to weave that separately. Maybe I should tape down the pattern because it might get a little bit annoying if it's moving around on me. So I'm just gonna tape this there and here so everything just sort of stays put. I don't think I'm gonna need a ton of this, so maybe I'll just grab 2 arms lengths to start. And I'm going to just simply use plain weave for this part because I'm just trying to build something. I'm just trying to weave something with structure. So again, whatever I do on this side, I need to reflect on that side. When I get to this little point in the butterfly, I think I could start going all the way across and then just fill this back in later. And I think that would make things a bit simpler. I have yarn in my mouth. So I'm gonna start here. Okay, so we have a butterfly shape. Now, before I do anything else, I'm going to tuck in all the ends in the back so that those are just out of my way. And then we need to decide how we're gonna make this look more like a butterfly. We need some details that we can put on this to bring out that butterfly-ness. I gotta think about that. One color I think I wanna bring into this is this really pretty green. Why don't I see it anywhere on my shelves? I personally love this really dark blue green with these two colors. So I'm thinking we'll bring that in probably through needle felting. I need to kind of decide what exactly I want to do to make this look like a butterfly, because I kind of want this to be more whimsical and an interpretation of a butterfly. I think as long as what you do is symmetrical, I think you can kind of do whatever you want. One thing that I kind of see in this particular butterfly, which I really like, is it kind of looks like leaves. So we could go in and we could make some leafy vine veins, leaf veins, there we go. We could do something along these lines and kind of purposefully lean into the fact that it kind of does look like leaves. We could also switch it up. It could be, you know, these two wings look more like leaves. These two wings, we could sort of do what's in my reference in this sort of guide that I was using before, and we could do something else. I don't know what to do. So let's just kind of lay some things out. If I take some really or fairly thin pieces, I'm also thinking I should outline, like we need to finish off these edges somehow. And I'm not entirely sure what the best way to do that is. So maybe I should outline both the top and the bottom with the wool, so that we have sort of a cleaner finished edge. I'm also kind of envisioning this on a plain off-white background. So this would kind of help it pop a little bit more too. Now the next question is, do we use the green on both the top and the bottom? Do we switch it up? These are the questions that I have. So I think I'm gonna have to just try some stuff. So I'm gonna take my little foam pad and some felting needles. You can find felting needles on Amazon, at your craft store, and you can go online and just type in felting needles. And it depends on what wool you're using, what type of needle you're gonna use. I'm generally using merino wool, so I'm definitely going for like a finer felting needle. So I'm gonna use those. And I need to prop this up a bit so that I can fit this underneath. I'm gonna grab a couple of books. So if I just take, because this is just a single ply piece of yarn, so it's kind of just like slightly twisted roving. I'm thinking, and I might wanna grab a slightly longer piece so I can get all the way around. And this will probably get me all the way. So I'm wondering if I can basically just needle felt, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, needle felting is kind of like backcombing. You're basically tangling up the wool, and that's what makes it stick to itself, like almost like Velcro a little bit. You're basically just, there's little burrs on these felting needles and it helps tangle up the wool. And that's how I'm doing this. Like that's all, it's just a whole lot of this motion. And I actually think this is gonna look kind of good. So I'm basically needle felting, and I'm gonna, every once in a while, I'm gonna peel this away from the foam on the back, so we're not actually felting it to the foam. And then I'm gonna felt a little bit more. But I'm kind of thinking that this is gonna look nice because it's finishing it off a little bit more evenly on the edges. And then when we go to take this off the loom, I should be able to tuck in the warp strings, hopefully without them being super noticeable. I might even go and needle felt a little bit more once it's actually off the loom. I just kind of expected this to be a little bit simpler while it's under some tension. So peel it away. Needle felt some more. But you see how much more smooth our edges are now? I really like that. I think that looks better. And you'll see on the back, it gets a little hairy. So that's totally normal because we're needle felting it. We're tangling up that wool. You can even kind of needle felt from the back too. And to be totally, completely transparent, I am still pretty new to needle felting, but it's pretty straightforward because it's just a whole lot of, for lack of a better word, stabbing the felting needle into the wool. I also have this other needle felting tool that has a bunch of needles in it, and you have to be a little bit more slow with it, but because there's so many needles in it, it actually can help it go a little bit faster. And the reason I say you need to go slower is because of the warp strings. The warp string, being that cotton, is pretty dense, so you don't want to go stabbing into it too aggressively because it could break your needles. Okay, so I have that outlined, and now I'm going to do the same with the top. And I think for this section, I might, well, maybe I should go all the way around. Yeah, we'll go all the way around. So I'm gonna take a piece that's long enough to go all the way around both of the wings again, and then I'll add a little bit extra. Okay, so we have a good start here. Now we can finally move on to how do we want to decorate the actual wings, because I mean, butterflies are beautiful. They've got very decorated wings. And again, we don't have to go at all literal with this. So we could do little flowers. We could do, like I was saying, some sort of leaf design. We could do both. Would it be cute if maybe on the bottom it was leaves, and then on the top it was a flower? So we could do, so I'm just like very roughly laying this out. So we could do some sort of like somewhat flowerish thing up here, and then do the same thing on the other side. Because I think, again, what makes this look more like a butterfly is having everything really nice and symmetrical. And then what if we did the petal veins on the bottom? So this would have more of a leaf design. This would have more of a floral design up here. So I just basically took a very thin piece of roving, and I'm kind of just twisting it. And let's just see how that looks. Okay, so we've got some somewhat leafy looking veins. I mean, leafy enough, I think. Let's move on to some sort of flower-ish shape. And I'm just like, I'm questioning now if it should be a flower or if I should just do some sort of almost somewhat oval shape on each side with a yellow middle. I think maybe that will be, I think that might be better / easier. It's not a lot of space for like an actual flower. Now I want to try to grab two pieces that are the same size. So I think what I'm going to do is try to split this one in half, because I think that's easier than trying to replicate what I already had. So I'm just sort of taking the wool, and I kind of want to just coil it up a little bit like this, maybe. Again, I don't really know what the best way is, but that kind of worked. So then that's going to kind of go there. And then this side will do the same thing. I'll just sort of coil this up, and then that will go over here. So, okay, let's just start needle felting. I think I'm gonna start with just the single one and sort of do a bit of an outline. I know I'm covering up a lot of the weaving here, but that's okay. So I'm just like, I'm not felting it in very much yet, because I kind of just want to make sure that I'm getting the same shape on this side before we take this one too far. Okay, let's do the big guy. So I just kind of want to clean up some of the edges a little bit if I can. Again, not that they need to be perfect, but there's some parts that are sticking out where they just don't really look quite right. Okay, so now if we pull apart this, I just kind of want to see about a little round shape within the round shape. So I'm just trying to kind of ball it up. Does that look good or does that look worse? No, I think it's good. So now I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. I'm gonna tidy it up yet. I'm just kind of putting things on, making sure I like it, and then we can felt it more. There's definitely something missing for me. Like, do we do another one here? Or we could bring in more of sort of the like stem look. So what if this was here? It kind of went up to there, because that kind of ties in what's happening down here a little bit. I think that could be cute. And then what if we did just a couple leaves? Oh, I think that's it. I think that's gonna look so cute. So I think I'm gonna grab a different chunk for the leaves. And let's see what we can do here. Okay, something like that. I love it. Oh my gosh, I'm actually kind of obsessed with this. It's giving me like a little bit of Rifle Paper Co vibes, which I'm kind of obsessed with. So definitely here for that. I think this is kind of like similar colors that you would find on their stuff. Oh my gosh, I am like, this is turning out so much cooler than I thought. There's something about just like, you know, this morning I was struggling with what I was gonna make. And while not everything turns out, there is something about just sitting down and just doing the thing. Like just making yourself make something, and how that can spark ideas as you're going. And starting is always the hardest part of it. So now we need to figure out the body. So how big should it be? I think it's definitely gonna be this green, because I just think that makes the most sense. And I think he's gonna go right here, and it's gonna be so freaking cute. I think I'm pretty happy with that. I feel like I could felt this thing all day long, because merino, when it comes to needle felting, does take some time to felt. Oh my gosh, you guys though, can we just stop and have a moment for how like legit cute this is? I'm gonna cut it off, so I'm just gonna go for it. Now, because I did so much felting, it's pretty sturdy, which is great. I think what I'm gonna do is just kind of leave it right now, and weave a just plain piece that will be our background. So I think I'll use Lion Brand Woolies Thick and Quick, so it's just like an off-white, because I think that would make it really pop, and then we're gonna put it all together. I started this weaving how I start every weaving, some cardstock, twining stitch, plain weave. I did the fringe, which is a mixture of 5mm and 2mm cotton string, and then I simply just wove plain weave all the way up. The background is finished, and I was kind of just messing around with this butterfly to figure out how to attach it, and I kind of am coming back around to that idea of it sort of coming out of the weaving. So what I did is I actually stitched some wire into just the back, and I tried tucking in some of the warp string ends just to see if they would disappear, and they actually kind of do. And so what I'm imagining is if we can have the wings up sort of like that versus flat, it's gonna give that more three-dimensional effect. And because it's not gonna be lifting up like way out from the weaving, I don't think you're gonna see in behind it, plus this would be on a wall. So I think we're gonna go with that. I'm just using this is like a flower craft wire, I think is all it is. I've had this forever, It's probably from the dollar store, I'm guessing, but it's just some wire. I think it's meant for floral arrangements, and I tucked it into the wings, and then I tucked in all the ends around it. I pulled those ends in really tight so that you couldn't see them kind of coming out from the front, and then that was sort of my butterfly shape. Then I left 2 strings out on the top and the bottom, and I used those, fished them back into the back of the piece, and then tied them to attach the butterfly to the actual piece. Then I realized that this needed antennae? I don't remember what the right word is, but it was lacking. So I eventually decided to just needle felt these right into the woven background because I just was struggling with trying to do them with a wire in it. So I just decided to put them right on the weaving, and I think it turned out so beautiful. So now I'm finishing up the piece, tying off those ends, tucking them in, putting it on the dowel, and now, are you ready to see the finished piece? Because I am so in love with how this turned out. Here it is. I think this turned out so beautifully. I love the stained dowel. It makes it look a little bit more vintage, and we got the wings kind of coming out of the piece there. If you like this video, check out this video next.